Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the merciful. My dear listeners, my name is Aishatu Jallon. I'm the presenter of this program. Today, the topic of our discussion is women in Islam. With me in the studio, I have two learned personalities, and I will start with my immediate left. This what is your name?
My name is Adijatu Jallon.
And on my immediate right.
My name is Adijatu Jallon.
Women in Islam is always a controversial topic, with many people believing that women hold inferior status or that they are truly free when practicing Islam, but this belief is wrong. Before the advent of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, women in all countries were bound to enslavement and servitude. Their enslavement also has an effect on men, since those children who were born to women in subjugation could never ever truly observe the spirit of freedom. At this junction, I would like to invite Ms. Adijatu Jallon to highlight the status of women before the advent of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for the time and opportunity given to me. My dear listeners, the advent of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, occurred almost 1,350 years ago. Until then, no religion or people accorded a woman such freedoms which recognize her intrinsic rights. Undoubtedly, in some countries where there was no rule of law, they were free from all types of restrictions. But this also cannot be called freedom. Rather, it will be described as a license. True freedom is achieved when the laws of culture and civilization are followed. Freedom which is attained by breaking the bounds of these laws is a fallacy, because it is conducive not to ambition but to indolence instead. At the time of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, and prior to his advent, a woman was not the owner of her property, but her husband would be considered the owner. She would not receive a share from the wealth of her father, nor was she considered the heir of her husband's wealth. Though in some countries she was the custodian of her husband's assets, but only during his lifetime. Once a woman was married to a man, she was declared his forever, and in no circumstance could she part from him. But her husband had the right to divorce her. She had no right to separate from her husband, no matter how afflicted she might be. If her husband deserted his wife and paid no attention to her or ran away from her, there was no law in place to safeguard her rights. It was thought to be an obligation for her to resign to her fate and earn a living for both herself and her children. When displeased, it was considered the right of her husband to physically discipline his wife, at which she could not raise a voice of complaint. In some countries, when the husband died, his wife would be considered the possessive of his kith and kin. They could marry her to whomsoever they pleased, either as a favor or for a price. In fact, in some places she was considered the property of her husband. Some men were considered to be fully within their rights to merchandise their spouses or to stake them as a material asset in a gamble or wager.
Thanks, Ms. Adijatu Jallon, for that wonderful presentation. Now, after highlighting the status of women before the advent of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I would like to turn to our next presenter, Ms. Adijatu Jallon, to highlight the status of women after the advent of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for the time and opportunity given to me. My dear listeners, through the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, all this cruelty was safely laid to rest. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam announced that God Almighty had especially entrusted to him the task of safeguarding the right of women. He declared in the name of God Almighty that men and women, by virtue of their common humanity, were equal to one another and in their coexistence, just as men have certain right over women, Similarly, women have certain rights over men. Women own property just like men. Husbands had no right to spend the wealth of their spouses unless they willingly give it to them as a gift. To seize a woman's wealth by force or to acquire it in a manner that could be adjudged that she had only consented out of differences was unacceptable. Whatever a husband gave to his wife as a gift became her property, and he was not allowed to take it back from her. Daughters were rightful heirs of their parents' wealth just as sons. However, in view of the fact that responsibility for the maintenance of a family usually rests with men, women who own property just women who are only responsible for themselves. Daughters will be entitled to have the share of sons. Similarly, like fathers, mothers will also inherit a portion of their sons' wealth. Here the amount